It's now time for us to deliberate on the commission podcast. And this is one of the categories that needs a little bit more explanation because obviously we had like 23 commission podcasts this year. Also, this is probably going to be a retired category. Who knows what the future will hold, but like
they're probably only going to be 2 this year. So
yeah, and that they might qualify for best bald move moment if they're really special, but like seems silly to pick a winner out of a category of 2, but
so we picked all of these out of a hat, and these were the top 11.
Purely random. So to try, and also it's like it seems mean to deliberate like commission podcast where it's like, well, this one's clearly the bottom, and this is. So what we do is we have a system called the SFIM, the Surprise, Fun, Interest, and Media Quality Index. Those are 4 things that we score from I guess potentially 0, but practically from 1 to 5, and we try to figure out what this allows us to roughly rank the movies quickly so that we can get to a top 10 or and argue from there. So we did that. And these are not like our actual rankings of it. These are just how they scored on this FIM index, and we were like, JFK was going to miss the cut, and we started arguing about, you know, what movies it should bump, and like, well, you know what, we should just make it a top 11, and then we'll argue from there, because we're cutting out a lot of good deliberating.
Yeah.
So. I know the opening question, and these are in order as FIM. It's not in order of our actual final. We're about to disregard this FIM.
We need to swap these categories around to spell something better, because
FIMs,
FISM.
You could do myths real easy, and it puts the media quality up front, which I kind of like. Although
I'm really miffed about this system.
SIFs, FISM.
All right, too much time has been spent on this.
FISM. So I know where we were at before we started recording is we wanted to get JFK in the top 10, and we were trying to decide which between we thought Looper, It Follows, and American Psycho were ones that we might be able to bump.
And people are probably looking at that and saying, well, what the hell are you talking about? Highlander's the bottom one. Shouldn't that be the discussion first? And you're probably not wrong. But we have some weird affinities for some of these movies.
Yeah.
And podcasts. And that's important to note, right? This is about the podcast that resulted from the commission, not so much about the movie itself, except in, you know, like media quality.
Also, we didn't explain this FIM, the FISM.
Right.
Surprise is the amount of surprise that we had in consuming the media. And as you can see, JFK scored a 1 because we had both seen this many times, and we were completely. It was our complete lack of surprise, which sucks. But we came with the surprise factor to otherwise get, you know, some of these more indie movies that might, you know, not otherwise get discussed. So like it's important, but like it really bugs us when something gets unfairly penalized on surprise, because sometimes a great movie that we've seen a bunch can shit the bed on surprise, and then that kind of sucks.
And I think JFK is a prime example of that, because I mean, you have, I think, seen this movie many times. I've seen this movie in its entirety like once before this commission.
Right.
So it should probably be higher on. So that's the thing. In surprise, we kind of lean toward the score of the person who was most surprised, because like we did a. So like Looper has a 4. Looper's a movie I've seen at least 3 times now after the commission.
But I hadn't.
But you hadn't seen it, right? And it had, you know, Bruce Willis and JGL and like.
And it's like
all
one of
these
those
actors
things
that
where,
you're like, well, how did I fucking miss this movie?
And it's like I thought it was cheesy and kind of dumb, and I was surprised at how kind of sophisticated and thoughtful it was.
Yeah.
So
like, we took your score as
Right.
opposed to my score, which would probably have dropped Looper down, which is why it's kind of in the discussion.
Right. So like this is
bumped.
just a start for us to get to a top 10 to kind of start arguing, and you know, and then the thing is like I also don't think I'm arguing for JFK to be the 10th movie. I actually might want it to be, but it miffed me that it was, you know, it can't get higher than 11 if it doesn't make the top 10. So okay, so let's start. Maybe we should just start sorting like we do. Like, is JFK better than Highlander? And then here's the other thing, the last wrinkle. So we got surprise, fun, which is how much fun we had recording the podcast or how much fun we think it was to listen to. Interest, which is did it derive any interesting conversation based on politics, quantum mechanics, futurology, just existential life. Yeah, behind the scenes.
All that kind of stuff.
And the media quality is, yes, what kind of movie was it? Was it a good movie? Is it the best of its genre? Is it genre defying? Was it a genre piece that was the best of the decade? It came out and maybe is a little dated. Those are the kind of things. But that's the
Highlander.
yeah, because we're trying to decide. This is the award for commissioned podcast. It's not award for, because if it's award for just absolute best movie, Unforgiven would be up in here.
Or Doctor Strangelove would probably go shooting to the top.
Right.
Like it's got a 5, right?
Okay. I think we've said, after all this is said and done, everything we need. So
now,
people,
let's throw all that out the window and let's just argue.
Yeah.
And try and make our points.
So is JFK better than Highlander? Like as a podcast? Yeah. I think
so. I mean, so when I think of Highlander, I know that there are some funny things in that movie that I would talk about.
Yeah.
But I don't remember any specific things. In some of these podcasts, I remember specific jokes that we made.
Yeah.
That was, made that podcast more fun.
I think that JFK was one of the more interesting podcasts we did, from a discussion of kind of like, just conspiracy theories.
Oliver Stone himself.
Oliver Stone, like the way to kind of think about conspiracy theories in a unified sort of way. And just kind of like the discussion about this particular conspiracy theory, let alone the skillful way in which the movie is made. So like I thought I don't think it had a lot of fun. There was some fun stuff. There's Costner trying to do an accent's always fun.
John Candy's accent.
John Candy's I don't even know what you could beat Nick.
I mean he was that
jazz
Nowlands jazz.
Yeah, a lawyer.
Yeah. It's a fucking weird character.
He wears an ice cream suit and he says "Daddy-o." So I think it's better than Highlander, as a podcast and as a movie. But man, you start like, I don't know that it's better than I think it's better than American Psycho. But American Psycho was a pretty interesting podcast too.
It was, yeah.
As befits its 4.5 on the interest scale.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion about the meaning of that movie and
what's it means to be a sociopath, and American Dream, and Wall Street ethics and morality. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there.
Yeah, it seems like American Psycho is living and dying on your surprise.
So you think I think it's better. So I think it's better. Tell me if you disagree. I think it's better than American Psycho, the podcast.
I'll tell you when I disagree.
Okay. All right. Well, is it? I think it's better than The Exorcist. I think it definitely stops at Doctor Strangelove, but they together might rise.
Well, I'm trying to consider this holistically, right? You can't say, was it a better, more interesting discussion? Well, then it definitely needs to go above that. You just can't say that because, the podcast might be more fun, or the movie might be better.
Yeah.
Or it might be more of a surprise. So like, I think I could see it.
I think The Exorcist also lived and died by my surprise at...
It did, yeah.
Because I knew
it just being a genre-defining film.
And that's the thing. It's like, is 4 fair? Because it's not that I was surprised it was a good film, or it was a good... It's not that I was surprised it was a good horror film. The surprise came from the fact that I was surprised it held up, because it's a very old film, and it's still an effective, creepy, atmospheric horror film. And I was also surprised at just it being a good film. Shot well, had a actual compelling storyline, took the time with the characters so you actually felt something for them. It wasn't just like a special effects fest. So like it's like the Godfather of horror films. So it's surprise, but it's not like, oh shit, this came out of nowhere. It's more of like, wow, I thought it was going to be this thing, and it was like even more so. So like, is 4... it's 4 fair on that, and that's why I'm like, I think JFK was just a better podcast than The Exorcist. The Exorcist was like, the pleasure I think of a listener was like, I guess, hearing a person articulate that had never seen the film about why you already know it's good and that's pleasurable. But, you know, and I know there was some things about our former religion that was in there, and we had some ha-has about different stuff. But yeah, I think JFK is better than Exorcist. What say you?
I think The Exorcist. I like The Exorcist better as a movie. I don't think the discussion was as interesting as JFK. I don't remember any specific fun that we had with The Exorcist. I know there must have been some because some of those scenes are so ridiculous. Like the puking scenes,
Right.
and if your mother sucks
But the
cocks
movie-
in hell, and
But the movie doesn't treat it that. Like, I remember, like...
no, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's hard to joke about these ridiculous... Because the movie takes it very seriously, and in the context of it, it's not a laughing matter.
Oh, for sure. And I don't know. I mean, because that 4 on Surprise is definitely you.
Yeah.
Because this is a movie I've seen
Right.
countless times.
Right.
So if I'm going by this, I think JFK Surprise would be higher, Exorcist Surprise would be lower, and I could see pretty much everything else staying where it is, which kind of would swap those. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So I guess I'm leaning towards swapping those, but
And I'm definitely... So
I mean, Dr. Strangelove is
Dr. Strangelove is where, like...
just a beast, which probably
I think both of these will
needs
actually
to go
rise.
higher. Yeah.
So, like, let's do this real quick. Are all 4... Is Doctor Strangelove, JFK, The Exorcist, American Psycho... Are they all better than It Follows?
Our podcast on that was so much fun.
Yeah, you're right. And I gotta always say, it's the podcast.
Right. Yeah, we are not judging the movies here necessarily.
I think...
so,
Yeah, you're right. I think Doctor Strangelove and JFK are all better podcasts than It Follows. But I don't think I can say the same about Exorcist, American Psycho. Maybe Exorcist.
I don't think I would say that about Exorcist. I think if you want to make a case for Strangelove and JFK
Okay.
moving up above It Follows, I could see that.
Now, is that where they stop, or is Doctor Strangelove better? I mean, is Doctor Strangelove and JFK better than Blade Runner, the final cut? Which, the thing about the Blade Runner, and I always have Sean Ray to thank for this because I probably never would have gone back and seen this otherwise. Is it honestly completely changed it made me a Blade Runner fan. I'd always been like, I understand why people like Blade Runner, and for its day, it was good. But like, to me, this, and it's one of the first times where like I've seen a cut like this really radically change my opinion. It's always made me like appreciate something I already appreciated more, or something but this is like, I really thought Blade Runner was boring and dull, and had shitty pacing and some things where it's just like silly, and this final cut fixes all those issues. So I thought it's an amazing podcast experience for that factor alone. And allowed me to then proceed to interface with the interesting part of the material in a way that I probably had never done before.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm looking at standard Blade Runner, it doesn't get a 4 on Surprise. It doesn't get a 4.5 on Quality. But the final cut, man, that bumped it up. I don't know. I'm worried that we're going to too heavily weight the interesting discussion versus the fun aspect, because really those are the two that relate to the podcast, right?
Yeah. So what do you think because Doctor Strangelove was a lot of fun and it was interesting. Like, but Doctor Strangelove, honestly, Doctor Strangelove is getting penalized because
you're lumping it with JFK.
Well, no, because it's a surprise of one, because we've all seen it and we think we already knew it was brilliant, and it fucking is brilliant, and so it's a 1. It didn't do anything.
I almost think we
surprise
need
us.
to like separate this into 2 phases where Surprise and Quality are
like tiebreakers
included, and then we cut those out for this. Like, okay, we've gotten to the top 10 using all of the criteria.
Okay.
Now let's talk about which was the most fun and interesting podcast.
Yeah, I just don't, because this is such a subjective process. Like, I don't want to be bludgeoned by a
sure.
number. Like, I want to be. This is all about in your balls. Do you feel like?
Oh, and that's what I'm suggesting. Let's kind of ignore the number. I would almost take the numbers off these now.
Okay,
and just,
we can do that,
and just go by like, what do we remember about the podcast?
We're gonna regret this.
We absolutely will. It's all documented in video.
We're gonna regret this.
Okay, let's not do it then.
Okay, all right. So here's the thing.
Yeah,
I think. Let's instead of trying to move these up in blocks of 3, is Dr. Strangelove better than the Blade Runner commission podcast?
I see what you did. I see what you subtly did with the hard boiled score. You took a 0.5 off hard boiled.
Oh, did I?
Oh, did I?
Shit.
Oh, did I?
No, I think hard boiled is going to be tough to beat. Honestly,
yeah. No, it was a fun thing to do.
And in years past, the fun commission movies tend to dominate. The fun and interesting do tend to dominate. So, I think. Do you have a problem putting Doctor Strangelove above Blade Runner? They're identical score.
No,
I don't either. Do you want to keep following Doctor Strangelove? Because
keep it going.
Is it better than The Thing? I say it's better than The Thing.
I think the only place where Strangelove runs into competition is once it hits Heat.
Okay, I can get with that.
I think Heat is maybe a little too high on fun right now.
It's got such a great ass, Jim.
It does, but what else does it have? Like, great ass is a good start
for fun. For fun,
yeah.
It's like one of also the movies, like the
Poseidon Adventure,
Pacinofication of Al Pacino. Like it's like he calcifies into this role, and that's all he can do. And this is definitely one of the big bullet points on that degradation. That starts in like what, Mad Dog and Glory, Scent of a Woman, like
Scent of a Woman, yeah, is like the marker where I go.
Right,
that's the new Al Pacino.
He's really frozen in Pacinoite.
Okay, let's leave those top 3 for now.
Okay,
and let's go back to JFK and see where
JFK
that goes.
beats Blade Runner in my mind, no questions asked.
Fuck.
Okay, not for Jim though.
I mean,
I think
because I'm struggling to come up with the fun on Blade Runner. I can't remember any fun in Blade
Runner. Well, it's 2.5, which is like a neutral, like it means it wasn't unfun. Like
I'm saying maybe it should be unfun because what jokes did we have? I don't remember.
So I think unfun is things where it's like torture and rape and child murder and things like that, where it's like it's actually not only are you not making jokes, it's unfun to talk about. Like that's why I think Prisoner, it's not on here, but Prisoner got like really kneecapped because it was grim, bloody affair.
Yeah. And American Psycho, and The Exorcist, those are both. Yeah,
those are both.
Take a hit for that.
Okay. Yeah, like The Exorcist squeaking by 2 for a fun, like that's. That has to be some Jesus dildo jokes, wasn't it? Like, probably. It's got to have been, how do you make fun of that? All right, so where were we talking about? JFK over Blade Runner?
Yeah, I guess so then, because I think the discussion was more interesting.
All right,
we're going to say they're neutral and fun.
Is it better than The Thing? Because I'm wanting to put it right underneath Strangelove is where I want to go with it.
I would, if it were me, I'm swapping The Thing and Looper, and I'm putting JFK just under The Thing. Because The Thing was much more fun. I mean, half of my enjoyment of that podcast is that you didn't even notice
his boonie hat or whatever it was.
Fucking hat, which is about the size of the screen of the full frame at any given moment.
That's how absorbed I was. Nothing like it didn't read as ridiculous, Okay, like it's all 80s too. Like everything kind of looked vaguely ridiculous. Okay, we might revisit that. So
I'm saying, maybe JFK goes to 5.
Okay, because I definitely want to argue.
Like, I think Looper is living and dying on your surprise of it, and for me, I mean,
but Looper was also it's the type. It's we do have a type of podcast that's like the timey-wimey sci-fi black hole bullshit, and this was that for this year. Right? There isn't any other kind of...
But, I mean, look at all the other scores, right? So media quality, it's less than JFK. Interest, It's less than JFK. Fun
and that media quality, like
more,
I think
not
4
much.
maybe that's the thing at these points. Like there's a big gulf between 4 and 4.5 that's not actually reflected in the rating. I don't think.
Yeah.
Because maybe that's the
And
thing.
5 has to be classic.
I'm wondering if we should re-evaluate this as like 2 should be a good movie, make them a little bit more logarithmic. That like 1 is just a shitty, like that's like Toxic Avengers when someone, that's, there's things you can like and find charming about the film and especially the podcast, but like
But they're poorly made and they're
yes, poorly acted, poorly shot. Like it's so like I think that like we are kind of like 2.5 is the 3 is a good movie, and since these are all normally good movies, we should probably. But again, this is probably a dead category going forward. Okay, boy, we're kind of getting there. I feel like Heat is too high.
Yeah, so I was open to discussion of Doctor Strangelove versus Heat.
Well, if you're open, then I'm
okay.
I'm going through that door.
Cool.
Is Hardboiled? Are we cool with Hardboiled being 1? Because here's the thing: it wasn't even a podcast; it was a live watch.
Right.
But it was super, and you had never seen it, so it ranked high on surprise. The live watch format made it very fun, like just and the movie itself is super fun.
It's so much fun. I mean, the action scenes are great. Those baby scenes.
It defines like the Gonzo action.
Every
movie.
time I said, surely they're not going to do the thing that I really want them to do.
Right.
They fucking go for it.
And I thought it
works.
was interesting because we were provided with all these behind the scene details of John Woo's maniacal Kubrick-esque abuse of his actors to get this stuff, and like he set Chow Yun-fat on fire or blew him up on at least one occasion. There was some crazy shit happening on this set, so I thought it was fun. It was interesting. It's also like it's the definitive pre-American John, pre-Hollywood John Woo film. So. Yeah, I guess its number, is it really going to be it's the novelty of it being a live watch commission podcast is.
I think that helps it.
Yeah.
I don't think after the fact it would have been quite as fun. Like if we had come away from the live watch and then said, okay, now we got a podcast. Because I mean, all of my surprise would have been tempered by time a little bit.
Is it weird that like probably
moment,
just a few hundred people would have seen this? Because like I don't know how many people actually watched the commission podcast, but
probably not a
watched
lot.
the commission live watch, but yeah, I don't know. It's like I almost feel like the novelty of it, because I'm starting to think, boy, Doctor Strangelove and JFK. Like to me, the podcasts on this list that stand out in my mind are Doctor Strangelove. If I'm ignoring Hardboiled, Doctor Strangelove, The Thing, JFK, Blade Runner, and I mean Highlander was fun because the reason Highlander's fun is because we also had the Nattercast did their companion piece podcast to it, and it was just a fun one, just really fun. I think that like Doctor Strangelove, JFK, and The Thing ought to be higher and above Hardboiled, because like I almost feel like we're way overrating the fun factor and the novelty factor of Hardboiled. Do you feel like that, or you're not feeling that?
If anything, I kind of think we're overrating the interest angle of it.
Of
Hardboiled? Of Hardboiled, yeah.
3.5? I mean, yeah, you're right. The only interest was like
because I mean, if we don't peg Hardboiled at 5 on fun, whatever hits a 5 on fun,
yeah.
Like,
I mean,
to me,
like Goonies and Back to the Future, things like that, I think are
Charlie
objectively
Chocolate
more
Factory.
fun because. But then again, if we'd have live watched Goonies, that'd been a party on wheels,
right? Yeah. So I'm I am comfortable saying Hard Boiled was as much fun as like a Goonies podcast.
I think the podcast would have been fun too. Like if we'd just done the podcast, like a lot of the stuff would have been, we'd have probably done a chronological listing of what the fucks in this movie, and it would have been pretty good. But if we'd done it that way, but we didn't. So it's like, yeah, you know, if your house had a barn door, it'd be a barn.
Man, you really want to kick it down the list. You want to kick it down like four places.
It kind of bothers me that I feel like the format is almost cheating this category, is cheating with this category. It's kind of like the way I felt about Downton Abbey being submitted as a miniseries by season 5. Like, don't come on. You can't, this is abuse of the cat. Like, this is almost like a cat. It almost feels like this is like a category of one that wouldn't have been eligible because it's not best commissioned thing. It's best commissioned podcast. I know it says commission at the top, but the category is commissioned podcast. I almost feel like, but I feel like that's also mean because it was super fun and interesting, but nobody, like hardly anybody watched it. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I guess I don't really care about that. I'm just trying to judge them on their own merits, and it's tough. I mean, all of this is subjective. Fuck. I'm trying to justify in my head why Hard Boiled would be higher than Doctor Strangelove. Is it simply because of fun? Because Doctor Strangelove was also very fun. Not as fun.
Right.
But it was a hell of a lot more interesting to talk about.
Yeah, I wish I could make this open up on you. Oh, I can. Okay. So here's how many bald movers. 284 bald move people have watched this thing.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, I guess an argument would be like, hey, maybe this will be a good introduction because it's a free one. It's a good introduction to the concept of live watching something.
I guess. I mean, I can talk myself into Doctor Strangelove going up. Just swapping it with Hard Boiled.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of a podcast that I had more fun with than Hard Boiled this year, and there isn't one.
No, it wasn't a great year for fun podcasts. It didn't seem like.
Highlander was pretty fun,
and by that I mean fun. But a lot of also a lot of the fun ones got like weighed down by other like Lost Boys, for example.
Oh, Lost Boys
super
was
fun,
a ton of fun. Yeah.
Super fun, but that's about it. The surprise factor.
The movie's not great.
The movie quality, yeah, really kind of hurt it. So I think here's the other thing. I think JFK should be higher than everything. I think it should jump over The Thing. What do you think about that? Because there again, it's 2 points higher than JFK, but only because I had never seen The Thing before.
And it was
you know what? For some reason, it looks like we split the difference on The Thing. Because if I'd have just done The Thing, I would have there again, it is like a genre defining and decade defining film in retrospect, and that's its reputation. But I just automatically, when I see old horror science fiction, I just you're going to have to overlook some bad matting and this, and you do, but it didn't. Some of it gets in the way and some of it doesn't.
I think JFK in places gets in its own way. I don't think that's a perfectly constructed film.
Yeah. But again, I'm arguing on the merits of the podcast. I'm saying that
well, you're not. You're saying. I mean, this was very specifically. You were saying The Thing has.
Well, no, I was saying the only reason it's 2 points higher is because of surprise, and I'm arguing two things. One, we split the difference of surprise because your surprise was 1 and mine was like 5, and then I'm also questioning: is my surprise really 5? Because I'm trying to unpack why I gave it like a very high surprise, and it's because I know its reputation, but I just automatically assume that something that old in that genre is going to not hold up as well as it did. So,
yeah,
the surprise, man, the surprise is the fucking worst. I hate it. Do you?
But it's got to be in there for good reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Do you think JFK? Do you think The Thing's a better podcast than JFK? I guess that's at the end of the day. Score be damned, and I don't think it is. But I might be pushing too hard for JFK.
Well, I think JFK
Because I love JFK.
I feel like JFK is overrated on the fun. Because all I remember of the JFK podcast is talking conspiracy theories.
We're getting to brass tacks.
Yeah, I mean we have to at some point.
Well, so JFK's it's at meh level of fun according to the score.
Yeah, it's right in the middle. I would say there wasn't much fun to be had in JFK. Like making fun of an accent here or there is one thing, but when you're talking about the thing, where I mean, even just talking about the effects was fun. Like the fucking dogs morphing out tentacles and shit, and I don't know. There was more fun to be had in the thing certainly than JFK. A lot more interest in JFK, I'd say.
I think it's reflected in the score though. Like, it's 1.5 point higher than in the fun. I don't think the thing was high like four going higher than 4 would be. I don't know.
No, I
truck
agree
with that.
Yeah.
So you don't think JFK should go higher than the thing or Heat?
Is Heat getting a 3.5 simply from Pacino's huge great ass
for fun?
Yeah.
Maybe.
So 1.5 seconds of that movie was fun to quote, and therefore we're ranking it that high on fun.
I mean, fun's a subjective thing. Like,
for sure.
Fun is not funny, it's fun. And I don't, you're kind of right. Cause like, I think, the positive regard you have a picture like bleeds into that too. Like the fact that it was fun to watch, and it was a pleasure to watch and record a podcast on this. So
I would say that's true of basically every movie on this list.
Yeah, you're fucking me with this shit. So what are you saying? The Heat's too high?
Yeah.
I kind of think so too. Yeah. I think the Heat is classic.
Heat number 5?
It's a good movie. It's a really good movie. It's a better movie than almost everything on here except for Dr. Strangelove, JFK, but I feel like the Heat needs to go down to Looper level.
Yeah, like right under JFK maybe.
Okay. And
then we just have to figure out the thing in JFK, which I think this list is in the right order.
All the way top to
least
bottom?
For the top 5. I haven't really examined the bottom 5, but
all right. Do you have any desire to settle? Because I guess I think Blade Runner should go above Looper, and then I think I'm about good.
Okay, I can see that.
Blade Runner over
It
Looper.
Follows, Exorcist was not much fun. It Follows was a lot more fun.
I think Highlander is the one that gets a chop on the.
It Follows was interesting.
Oh, okay. So Highlander or American Psycho?
Oh man. For which one doesn't even make it on the list, huh?
Yeah.
Damn.
I know, it's brutal. Gun to your head, which was the better, in your mind, a better podcast, American Psycho or Highlander? And that's the thing, is like,
shit.
We listen to sections of some of these podcasts to try to figure out, to try to get 10, it's been a year since we recorded some of this stuff. American Psycho, I think it has been a year.
I think I feel like I give more weight to the fun category, and you give more weight to the interest category.
That's
the problem here.
Probably fair.
My gut feeling is Highlander needs to make it on this list, and American Psycho slips off.
I actually agree with that.
Okay. All right, then we have our list, I think.
Sorry, American Psycho, and whoever commissioned it. This is not a referendum on your intentions and quality of the thing that you. This is a very weird category.
Yeah, it's super strange.
But yeah, and also this is one that the listeners get to weigh in on too.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Nice.
So they'll get to that's.
What if they pick one that isn't even on our top 10?
I don't know that's happened, that a winner has come from off our top 10, but honestly, this was a very tough top 10, and it was really tough top 17 18 movies. I think there's like most years there's usually a natural kind of top 10, top 5, and this was a lot tougher to find. So good year for the final year of commissioned podcasts. Oh, you know what? There actually will be a few more commissions this year because we know that we sold partial shares of some of these community commissions when we closed down, and we've got to make that right somewhere. And like we're not sure whether we just want to just go ahead and do those partially sold commissions, or we want to refund.
Let's do part of a podcast.
However many shares will watch that much of
yeah.
the thing, yeah. Or whether we want to issue refunds or something else. But so there could be a handful of commissions that come out in 2019.
Yeah, we'll see.
There we go. Well, that's a deliberation.